gang, what's up? Aaron, Canadian Looney. How's everybody doing? Like, share, subscribe. We're going to watch some Canadian federal politics here together, the way it's supposed to be done, and have a discussion about it. We have a bunch of committee pieces. Some interesting things took place on the floor last night and this morning. We've got that to look forward to. We've got Larry Brock coming up, Michael Cooper. This won't let you down. The pre-show here before the question period, which we will slip into right in time. Like, we'll skip all those boring statements. This is the quality stuff that you want to see right before question period. So forget those other guys. Come watch here, like, share, subscribe, join in the chat. It's one of the most enjoyable chat rooms that I've ever witnessed. Really, I'm just lucky to be a part of it. Anyhow, let's kick things off as we do, and then we're going to get straight into the committee videos. That's it. Let's get her going. You know how we do.
Questions orales, oral questions.
Oh, hello. Do you have a warrant to be here?
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
WTF.
Hey everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Proud to be Canadian. I am, you know I am. You know I am. I am Canadian. Come on! I love this country where I am. This land is where I make my stand. No other girl gets truer than
The one we call Canadian. Canadians.
But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up. Elbows up.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. We have issues in Canada, right? Unless you're completely head in the sand, you'd be aware of this.
Oh, yeah. And now, oral questions. Questions orales.
Mr. Cooper, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Knoble, I just want to go through some of your testimony and to make sure that I understand it correctly. Is it accurate that blind trust misuse is a problem?
The question is whether blind trust are a problem. Is that the question?
Is blind trust misuse a problem?
I mean, I would say any misuse of a company or trust is a problem. I would also personally think that...
Thank you for
trust...
that. And therefore, as I understood your testimony to be that blind trusts are not a sufficient safeguard.
Correct. Could I expand on why? Or?
And what I understood you to say was that the best safeguard is transparency. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a prime minister whose answer to everything is that all of my assets are in a blind trust, so everything is okay. Now, that, based on your testimony, that isn't sufficient, but there's an even bigger problem, and that is because the Prime Minister set up 3 multi-billion-dollar investment funds that he registered in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. The Prime Minister is entitled to something called carried interest pay. That's essentially future bonus pay based upon the performance of those funds. The Prime Minister picked the companies. He knows what the holdings of these funds are. He's disclosed the 3 funds, but he has not disclosed what the holdings are in these funds, and therefore the Prime Minister is not being transparent about potential conflicts of interest. So would you concur that even if the Prime Minister isn't technically by law under the Conflict of Interest Act required to disclose the holdings of those funds that he set up, in the interest of transparency, shouldn't he?
I mean, I understand that people will usually abide by whatever laws they have to comply with. And again, of course, a prime minister or a public official has a higher responsibility or a higher role model. I would still expect any citizen, especially high net worth individuals, to still disclose all the assets that they have. I do not think that a blind trust can create enough safeguard to ensure that no problems will be there. So it's much better for at least authorities to know exactly what assets are held in a trust. But in the case of a prime minister or another public officer, ideally the full general public would know what's there, and then they can judge whether any conflict of interest is happening with a government contract or with any other transaction, instead of simply having to rely blindly on what is happening.
Now, we have a prime minister who has tens of millions of dollars tied up in in offshore tax havens. Technically, under the law, he can do that. As you note, the Prime Minister really ought to be held to a higher standard as a public office holder, as the highest public office holder in the land. In your view, should the Conflict of Interest Act be amended to prevent public office holders from using tax havens? Does that, to you, seem like something that would make sense?
I mean, again, as I said earlier, I feel like the biggest concern is what is defined in the country as tax haven, because if you're only covering maybe small islands, they can still be using major financial centers that might not be considered a tax haven by Canada, but can create just as many risks as a small island. And I would expect that, again, to be used for everyone. I mean, like that same standard. Of course, a public officer, but anyone that there will be a disclosure. Maybe some countries have chosen for full prohibition of going for a tax haven. At least another alternative is to be explained why exactly you need to go to a tax haven, why only a tax haven would offer you something, and whether that is a reason just to reduce their taxes or escape other laws that would apply in Canada to anyone else, or if there's a good reason that is not about a tax, it's not about reducing taxes or escaping any law. So maybe there is one, I can't imagine one, but maybe they have a reason.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Knoble. Mr. Knoble, I'm going to...
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Six Nations.
Brantford, Bransdell, Six Nations. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I thank the Justice Minister for his speech. The bill itself, Madam Speaker, is some 35 pages long. It makes 80 significant changes to the criminal code. In fact, the title of the bill itself is a Bail and Sentencing Reform Act. The question I put to the Minister is regarding sentencing. He spoke very generally about the consecutive sentence aspect to the bill. He spoke about the aggravated features of the bill for sentencing purposes. But he did not mention the one particular clause in this 35-page bill that actually increases the sentence for one particular offense. So I would like to know, of all the serious violent crime that is happening in this country, extortion alone up 330% in 10 years, why this particular Liberal Justice Minister and his government sought to change the penalty for contempt of court from 90 days to 2 years less 1 day. That is the only sentence in this bill that seeks a change.
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Before I address the member's question directly, I want to thank him for the conversations that we've had and for his advocacy to advance some of the specific reforms that are in fact included in this bill. This bill was not intended necessarily to revisit the penalties associated with every offence that exists in the criminal code. Of course, serious offences deserve serious penalties, but it was important for me to address the issue of contempt of court, because frankly, one of the themes that is carried throughout the text of this bill is really underlined by a culture of a lack of respect for the law. You can see the measures that we put in place to address that with dealing with violent repeat offenders, addressing the number of crimes that are outstanding. But I wasn't satisfied that we had appropriate penalties in place for those who would openly defy orders of the court. It's important to me that we not only have penalties associated with criminal activity that takes place in communities, but that we have a regime that will protect the integrity of the court's processes if all other offences are going to be treated with respect to Canadians at large.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for the Honourable Deputy House Leader. Thank you very much.
Minister, for putting this bill forward and for his very pertinent speech in this House today. Madam Speaker, many police associations have called for a rapid passage of this bill. In fact, the London Police Association said, if I can read, the Bail and Sentencing Reform Act represents a vital and long overdue advancement. This is an essential step in creating a safer London that our members serve in, equipping them with much needed legislative support, holding violent repeat offenders more accountable. Maybe the Minister can share with this House why it's really important that we work together with all the parties across the House to make sure that this bill sees the day as soon as possible.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Look, thank you very much. To the extent we can adopt this bill quickly, we expect to see the positive implications it's going to have in communities more quickly. What's important to the member's question is that I prefer to do this in a way that is collaborative, not just with members in the House, but with different levels of the government and policing associations. The fact that this has attracted such extraordinary support from the people who actually enforce our laws and the people who manage the justice systems in provinces speaks to the fact that there is buy-in from people across the spectrum of political ideologies, across geographies, and across partisanship. I hope that spirit that we've implemented in the development will also carry through when it comes time to cast our votes in this House.
Honourable Député de Saint-Hyacinthe.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would like to say that we agree with C14. We'll study it in more depth at committee. However, there are questions that we have. I'm just looking for the stats, but unlike what popular belief would have us believe, we have gone from 74% in 2019 to those who are incarcerated waiting for their trial to 72% in 2023. How is this possible, and how will this bill help to resolve this? The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Okay. Avant de commencer,
Before I begin, I'd like to thank my colleague from the bloc for their support for this bill. It's really important for cooperation and to bring about the necessary amendments. Just to clarify.
Details certain here. My colleague has raised a very real concern about the number of people in Canada who are facing pretrial detention. The right answer, in my view, insists that we will implement a framework that is designed to protect the public safety. This will engage conversations, particularly at provincial levels, about the resources that are necessary to deal with bail hearings expeditiously, to make sure there are enough police on the ground, enough prosecutors, enough judges to actually hear bail decisions, enough administrative support for the courts to do their jobs. If we extend the logic of the fear that I've heard, which is very real from people who've raised similar points, you would end up concluding that the right solution to process challenges would be to weaken Canada's criminal laws. I would disagree with that approach, but I would invite a healthy conversation during the committee proceedings about what resources should be in place and which levels of government have such responsibilities to ensure we don't just have strong laws on paper, but a system that has the capacity to implement them.
The Honourable Member for Carrick Prince George.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you to our honourable colleague, the Minister, for his comments on this. My comments through you to the Minister is that I've worked collaboratively across all sides of the House for the last 3 years in the work on C-321, an act to amend the criminal code as it pertains to first responders and healthcare workers. I worked collaboratively across all sides to get it passed unanimously in the last Parliament at all stages, and it did. But the dissolution of Parliament made it fall off the order paper. We have a bill before us today, S-233, which the House in the Senate side pass it unanimously because it is so important. The minister said this part of C14 is critically important. I couldn't agree with him more. But would he support carving this section out and us as a House standing together, sending a message to first responders, paramedics, healthcare workers that we value them, and pass S233 at all stages at some point during this conversation?
I think that's a good question.
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And perhaps before I address the question directly, I want to thank the Honourable Member because I've had the opportunity to work with him a number of years ago when he put forward, I believe it was Bill C-211 in our first Parliament, which addressed the need to better support first responders and their mental health in particular. I know he's been a champion for first responders, as have I been from the very day that we were first elected. This is an important component of this bill, but quite frankly, I don't care who gets the credit. I want to see the protection afforded to our first responders. We can have a conversation perhaps after the debate concludes today on the best way to make that happen most quickly, to the extent we can support those who are working to keep our communities safe, liberal, conservative or otherwise. It's an idea that I support philosophically, but in practice as well.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Minister for Justice for his efforts. But I note that the Canadian Civil Liberties Association and the Director of the Criminal Justice Program has pointed out that 3 successive Ministers of Justice have noted that we don't have any standardized approach to collecting the data on how many people who apply for bail get it. The vast majority don't. Without this standardized data, we're making reforms without necessarily the evidence base that we need. And I wonder if the Honourable Minister for Justice has any comments on the question of whether we actually have a database and evidence base that's not driven as much by the very, very painful anecdotes, but by evidence.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As always, I appreciate questions from my friend and colleague from Saanich Gulf Islands. She's right that there is a paucity of data when it comes to the administration of bail in Canada. Part of the reason is we have different provincial systems which have different challenges. We have not only challenges as to when a person may be released on bail, how often they may receive bail, but also the reasons behind those decisions. This is an issue that will require collaboration amongst provinces to develop common standards to actually collect the data that we need going forward. But at the same time, in the absence of a perfect data set, we have the opportunity to work directly with the governments that administer the system and the law enforcement officials who actually work within the system day to day. When there is near unanimous perspectives of certain changes that are posing very real problems in communities, it's incumbent upon me to listen to those who have such responsibility to deliver on the words that are included in the criminal code. To the extent that we can launch an initiative to better collect data, to better share that data, both in a disaggregated way, but about offenders who may pose risks, I know that I would be more than willing to entertain a conversation as to what role the federal government may play in collaboration with provinces who have primary responsibility in this space.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Member, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House. Leader on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. There have been some consultation, and I suspect, and I hope you would find unanimous consent for us to go back to questions on the order paper for about less than a minute.
Does the Honourable Member have unanimous consent?
Yes.
Agreed. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the government's responses to question 284 to question 297 could be made orders for return, these returns would be tabled in an electronic format immediately. Thank you, colleagues.
Plaît-il à la Chambre?
Does it please the House that the questions be transformed into orders and the document be filed, tabled immediately?
Accordé.
Granted.
Debate. The Honourable Deputy Whip, yes.
Merci, Madame.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to reply to the question of privilege.
Consent to split his time? Yes. Agreed.
Thank you. I'll be splitting my time, Madam Speaker, with the member for Caribou, Prince George. It's always a pleasure to have the opportunity of speaking on behalf of the fine constituents of my riding, and it's equally more important that it is significant for me as a former participant in the criminal justice system for almost 2 decades. This is an issue that I have been pushing and advocating for change, and really one of the rationales as to why I left the Crown Attorney's system in Ontario and seek to become a legislator to make and to pass laws that will improve community safety. So we take a look at the last 10 years, Madam Speaker, and we just see plummeting, rising crime rates of very serious matters right across this country. I have embarked on a cross-Canada tour and engaged with all the stakeholders that you can imagine that would have a position on this, and all of them had been unanimous in terms of what needs to be done. And in fact, for the last 4 years, engaged in their own sort of advocacy with this federal government, writing to not only our current Justice Minister, but former Justice Ministers Varani, to effect change. And for 4 years, Madam Speaker, that was largely ignored. We know how we got to this situation, and I think I often get asked this question is, why are the Liberals so preoccupied with the rights of the accused at the expense of victims and community safety? I never really had a real concrete answer to provide to them without doing a little bit of research. And I did that, Madam Speaker, and surprisingly, this goes back almost 50 years, to the early 1970s. The Trudeau government, this time Pierre Elliott Trudeau, appointed a Solicitor General by the name of Jean-Pierre Goyer, who stood in the House of Commons, not this building, but Centre Block, and proudly proclaimed in the House at that time his intention to stress the rehabilitation of individuals rather than the protection of society. And that struck me as wow, like a wow moment. The origin of this whacked out, hug-a-thug mentality with this Liberal government in terms of making it so much easier for them to conduct their trade. And then we hear from Justin Trudeau and his then Justice Ministers that don't blame us, we are simply following what the Supreme Court of Canada literally asked us to do, and to codify changes in bail with the passage of Bill 75. Well, Madam Speaker, I have read those decisions in my professional capacity and again as a parliamentarian, and specifically I'm referring to the decisions of Antic, Zora, and St. Cloud, which, Madam Speaker, never instructed the federal government to do anything, never instructed them to codify any principle in the criminal code. How criminal justice is administered in this particular country is we follow the criminal code, but we also bear in mind case law, decisions from our lower courts, decisions from our superior courts, decisions from appellate courts, and the Supreme Court of Canada. That's how the administration of justice works. So Justin Trudeau and his current Liberal government didn't have to do anything, but they did. And at that time, this is 2019, Madam Speaker, I'm in the trenches, I'm dealing with bail court, and I'm saying to myself, why is it becoming exceedingly difficult to take an obvious case where someone has proven themselves to be unreliable in making promises and have proven themselves to be a menace not only to themselves but also to the community, but they were being released? And of course, we would get memos from our superiors in Ontario and Queen's Park, and lo and behold, I find out that the federal Liberal government changed the law, changed the direction, changed the trajectory of what bail court is all about, and instructed, in my view, all judges and justices of the peace who hear bail applications every single day to prioritize the release of the accused with the principle of restraint, releasing them at the earliest opportunity on the least restrictive conditions. That, Madam Speaker, is and will always be the origin of catch and release. I lived it, I experienced it, and unfortunately the rest of Canada is still experiencing it. Then it made it even worse. The current Liberal government made it worse in 2022 when they decided that they had to pass C5, that they had to make it even easier and softer for criminals to get through the criminal justice system. Let's take some of the most serious gun offenses and take away all those mandatory minimum penalties, take away the ability to, give the ability to ask for conditional sentences for very serious offenses, and we all know the consequences. Then they started to hear from these stakeholders again, and they promised, they were listening, that they would make some changes, hence C-48, increasing reverse onus provisions in the criminal code, which we know did not have the desired impact. So when I take a look at Bill C-14, I see more reverse onus provisions, much like C-48. I can't say this is C-48.2 because it's not. But I listen to the Justice Minister, and he wants to provide some confidence to Canadians and to victims that they're finally getting it right, that they're striking the right balance, that community safety is going to be paramount. But I can tell you, Madam Speaker, there is nothing in C-14 that directs the judges not to release in certain circumstances. It makes recommendations that they shouldn't give primary consideration to early release, but does not mandate that these dangerous repeat criminals should remain in custody, because we all know what happens. When we lock up the repeat violent criminals, the crime rates go down. In fact, when you take a look at StatCan statistics over the last 10 years, in fact, over the last 15 years, the last 4 or 5 years of the Stephen Harper government, the crime rate went down significantly. When you look at that same graph, you see a spike the moment Justin Trudeau took government, and every year thereafter. 2 minutes, thank you. So I'm not saying that C-14 is not going to be manna from heaven, because it's not. It is being supported by law enforcement, just like they supported C-48, because let's face it, they are desperate. They are desperate for something. But I've spoken to all the major stakeholders who are now coming out in the media to say they support Bill C-14, and they have made recommendations to this government. Some have been captured, not all. So I think there is many avenues for improvement, Madam Speaker, and I would encourage the government, as they listen to my speech, as we move towards debate in the House of Commons and ultimately reviewing this at committee, that they take a look at the common sense solutions in the member for Oxford's Jail Not Bail Act. It provides direct instructions to judges on how to deal with repeat violent criminals. We start by scrapping the principle of restraint and replacing that with the principle of public safety and protection. That is an instruction that would telegraph to the judges that when you're dealing with a class of individual who's been on a number of releases or has a criminal record that shows repeated behavior of not abiding by conditions, that the priority is on the protection of the community, not the convenience of the accused. So I encourage the government to take a look at that. I see my time is fastly coming to an end. This is something that I could probably speak for hours, Madam Speaker, but unfortunately I don't have that opportunity. It's good, not good enough. Conservatives will make it better. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. We all know that the Prime Minister made a solemn commitment to Canadians by saying we were going to be bringing forward bail reform legislation. A phenomenal amount of work and effort has been done in terms of consultations with a wide spectrum of stakeholders, whether it's provinces, territories, Indigenous leaders, so much consultation that was done on it. We now have substantial bail reform legislation before us today. And I think that we have, whether it's mayors, premiers, you name it, individuals that want to see the Parliament act on this legislation. Would the member not agree that it would be a wonderful thing to commit to seeing this bail reform legislation pass ultimately and even get royal assent before the end of the year?
Great question.
The Honourable Member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Well, it's optimistic for the member to suggest that it could be passed by the end of the year. But I'm hoping that if we consider that as an opposition party, that my friend's party would also consider reasonable amendments to improve the bill. I said it's good, it's not best, it can be approved. My friend talks about a substantial bail reform package. I would disagree with substantial. There is some relief here that law enforcement would like. The reality, though, in practical terms, it does not separate those offenders that should be separated from consideration from getting bail. Jail Not Bail Act, I encourage this member to read, provides great counsel on that issue.
Questions et commentaires.
Questions and comments?
The Honourable Member for Senator Gulf Islands, yes, and then I'll go.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And my honourable friend from Bradford Brent. His take on the legislation is fascinating for me. I know how hard he's worked in this area. I'd be very grateful to share ideas for reasonable amendments. My sense from the Minister is that he and the government are open to amendments. My question to my honourable colleague is has he been also asking to see how open they are to improve the bill through amendments?
Honourable Member for Brentford, Brent South, Six Nations.
Madam Speaker, would you allow her to repeat that last line? I didn't quite catch it. There was some talking in my background. I could not hear it.
Apparently there was some issues with the sound, so we'll stop the timer so that the Honourable Member for Senator Gulf Islands can repeat the question.
I won't repeat the whole question. The Honourable Member asked me to repeat the last line, which was to ask my colleague if he has had indications, as I feel I have, that the government will consider helpful amendments that allow us to support the bill. And I know he has criticisms, I have criticisms. Maybe we can compromise and get a better bill.
The Honourable Member for Brentford, Brent South, Six Nations.
Thank you to my colleague for that question. Unlike previous Justice Ministers, my relationship with our current Justice Minister is vastly different. He is open to conversation. We've exchanged our personal cell numbers. I spoke about this bill with him this past weekend. He knows that we're going to be putting forth reasonable amendments. He's indicated a willingness to look at that. In fact, I'm even going to suggest that I'm going to pass it on to him even before it gets to committee, because I think here is an opportunity for this House all to work together to make this the best possible bail and sentencing reform that we can produce at this juncture in time.
Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my honourable colleague for his inspiring speech. What we're hearing a lot here today is the Liberal government coming up with workarounds around their old Bill C-75, which introduced Section 493 to the Criminal Code, and that's the principle of restraint in the administration of bail and bail court. But my question to my colleague is, instead of doing these workarounds, can we get rid of Section 493 altogether? The Liberals are blaming it on the Supreme Court of Canada, but they were never instructed to change the law. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Brentford, Brent South, Six Nations.
I thank my colleague for that excellent question and equally excellent suggestion. That is a particular issue that we have been advocating for years. As I indicated in my speech, in 2019, that creation, the principle of restraint, amending the code, was the genesis of the problems we face today. So it would be a very easy fix to simply repeal 493.1, the principle of restraint in the code, and use language that emphasizes the protection of public when dealing with violent repeat offenders.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Caribou.
Like to welcome our witnesses, Jason Jacques, the interim parliamentary budget officer, and Govindadeva Bernier, the director.
Now, I'm pretty sure that Jason Jacques here got his job threatened because he's an interim person in the position of PBO, and he came out there a couple of weeks ago and said that everything was off the hook. And you can see him now. He looks afraid. And his testimony certainly changes.
Of budgetary analysis at the Office of the Parliamentary Budget Office. So you will have 5 minutes, Mr. Jacques. Over to you.
Madame la Présidente.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. In accordance with the mandate, my staff independently prepared international analysis and try to provide responses regarding implementation of the tax law.
We published preliminary findings on international taxation, which found that financial flows between Canada and certain jurisdictions are disproportionately large compared to their economies. Some of these jurisdictions have been recognized as tax havens. In 2022, we published an international comparison of the Canada Revenue Agency's performance, which compares Canada's tax administration performance with that of comparable countries on a set of indicators, including the cost of collection and the value of additional assessments. Nous serons heureux de répondre.
We will be pleased to respond to any questions you may have regarding our taxation analysis or any other publication by PBO. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Les 5 minutes les plus
Those were the fastest 5 minutes we've ever seen here. Thank you, Mr. Jacques.
For 6 minutes.
Thank you. In your recent appearance at the Government Operations Committee, you said, quote, the most important fiscal anchor is the debt to GDP ratio. The government is not on track to achieve that fiscal anchor, a fact that you then went on to call, quote, very alarming, stupefying, shocking. This is the first time in 30 years that I've seen one in which the ratio is going up over time, unquote. This caught a lot of Canadians' attention. It was an alarm call for
Point of order,
fiscal.
I have to ask about relevance. Point of order. The standing orders relevance to the study at hand on tax havens, which was a conservative study. I'm not sure that this is relevant to that study.
Okay, on the point of order. On the point of order, and I had not got to my question, which was about to come and is germane to it. But the witness had said that he would take questions on any of his publications, which suggested a pretty wide set of latitude for this meeting. So if I may...
On that point of order?
Okay, so, I heard Mr. Turnbull and then Mr. Hallan on the same point of order.
Just because the witness said that he's open to questions on any matter does not mean that we're not here to study a motion that the Conservative Party put forward that we agreed to in this committee, and that defines some general parameters for the types of questions that we should be able to ask. So based on relevance, Chair, I would advise that that maybe Mr. Kelly could be bumped back into the lane.
Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. Mr. Hallan on the same point of
Madam
order.
Chair, just a precedence on this committee that Mr. Turnbull has been on this committee before, that whenever the parliamentary budget officer has come here, there's been a wide latitude given, just like any minister comes. There's been times when the Liberals have asked many questions outside the realm of the current study, and there's precedence on that. So I would ask that you rule that there's a precedence in this committee where even a parliamentary budgeting officer like Mr. Jacques have a wide latitude on what kind of questions he asks. And that, I believe that's why he said he's also open to taking questions about any other report.
I'm unmuted? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Mr. Kelly, I think you can proceed. Obviously, this is a study on tax havens,
Yep.
so
Thank
look
you.
forward to hearing your question.
I have 43 seconds in, I think, when we hit the point of order, so I'll continue from there with 5 and 17 left. So you had testified at the committee about the shocking scenario we now face of first time in 30 years, one of an ever-increasing debt or a debt-to-GDP ratio going up over time. So we are studying tax havens. Does the use of tax havens contribute to debt-to-GDP in that it constitutes loss of tax revenue that is made up with borrowing? So the stupefying scenario that we face, may I ask then, how does this connect to tax havens and the failure of this government to collect revenue?
Thank you for the question. As you point out, there is a direct connection between the measurement of the overall debt-to-GDP ratio, and in particular the revenues that the government collects and tax havens. Is well established by the reports that we've published in the past, as well as those of the Canada Revenue Agency and other jurisdictions. There is a sizable tax gap in most developed countries, including Canada, and that results in a situation where there are, I believe my predecessor used the number billions of dollars that potentially go uncollected. And I believe the Canada Revenue Agency has also published several reports on the tax gap that also use the billions term as well.
Okay, so your predecessor and his predecessor both tried to get information from the CRA to help you better measure the tax gap. Are you getting the cooperation that your office has historically sought to accurately measure the tax gap?
So I think there are two parts to an answer to that question. The first is information flow with government departments is generally good, including that of the Canada Revenue Agency. That said, when it comes to actually measuring the tax gap, there are specific data sets that we or anyone would require to actually generate a reliable or reasonable estimate. And currently the determination by the government and the Canada Revenue Agency is pursuant to Section 241 of the Income Tax Act. The Parliamentary Budget Officer is not eligible to gain access to that data.
Okay, so that has been unchanged then over the years. You still lack the tools you lack information that your office would require to even test or to verify independently the CRA's estimates of the tax gap.
That is correct, and I believe that was if I may add, I believe it's the motivation for Bill S-217 that's currently in the Senate that was moved by Senator Percy Down that would ensure that the Parliamentary Budget Officer...
Yes, I'm very familiar with it, having moved exactly that bill as Bill S-243 in the 42nd Parliament, which the Liberal members voted against and prevented it from passing. So the increasing debt-to-GDP ratio, which is exacerbated by the use of tax havens by Canadians that are avoiding taxes, what does the increasing debt-to-GDP ratio mean for Canada's credit rating, its ability to borrow, and its effects on expenditure if these fiscal anchors are completely jettisoned, as you have said they appear to be in your OGO testimony?
I don't know that I used the word jettisoned. I know it's a word that I'm familiar with that word. I don't know. I use many words in that OGO testimony, and I think as members around the table realize, I'm attenuating to my new circumstances and learning to avoid using adjectives. With respect to debt to GDP, I would say I would go back to the government's own words around debt to GDP. So the government, going back to page 38 of the 2024 December Economic and Fall Statement, indicates that the debt to GDP anchor, and in fact a declining debt to GDP ratio, is the most important fiscal anchor for demonstrating fiscal sustainability and is essential for securing and sustaining Canada's AAA credit rating. period. And those are the government's words in our office, and I certainly agree with what the government said.
Okay, so according to your office and according to the government itself, our AAA credit rating is imperiled by the absence of fiscal anchors and the prospect of a declining debt to GDP ratio in the years to come.
A very brief response, please.
I don't believe I used the word imperiled. I don't know if I would agree precisely with that statement. The debt to GDP ratio is certainly an important fiscal anchor and something we look forward to. And again, given the mandate of our organization in promoting fiscal transparency, something we certainly look forward to on November 4th is much greater clarity.
There for this round. I'll turn now to.
So Canadians pay taxes when they earn a paycheck, when they buy a house, when they own any property, when they spend money, and of course, even when they die. So it does feel for the average Canadian that there's no way to avoid the taxman unless, of course, you're wealthy enough to set up an offshore tax haven. And so Canadians were shocked to learn that the Prime Minister once chaired a pension fund that was deliberately based out of Bermuda, which is one of the world's top tax havens, to avoid paying the same taxes that every Canadian family would have to pay. Could you please explain in plain terms what a tax haven is, why corporations use them, and what challenges the CRA faces when trying to collect taxes from entities that operate in Canada but shift their profits abroad?
Sure, I'll start on that one. So tax haven is a term for a jurisdiction that imposes low, minimal, or no income tax, often corporate income tax, but can be personal income tax as well. Sometimes it's a special regime that's available only to foreign entities with the objective, occasionally, of attempting to attract investment income from other countries. So that's kind of a definition of a tax haven. You asked, and just to get your question clear, you asked about challenges the CRA encounters.
Why corporations use them, and then the challenges.
Why corporations use them. In my experience, corporations generally are motivated to return profits to shareholders. That's their bottom line objective most of the time, is to benefit shareholders. And so they look to provide the highest after-tax return possible. So they're looking for low tax rates. That's a reasonable objective for business people. Our challenge at CRA is to make sure that profits attributable to Canada are properly reported in Canada, and that profits that belong to other countries, such as important trading partners like the United States and the Europeans, Japanese, Koreans, that profits earned in those countries can be taxable appropriately in those countries as well. So we have some tools. Currently, we use transfer pricing rules consistently with other countries that require that intergroup transactions occur at arm's length prices, so really at commercial terms within a multinational group across its supply chain. My colleague Trevor mentioned the foreign accrual property income rules. So Canada has a policy of requiring that passive income that's earned offshore by Canadian multinationals and Canadian high-income individuals is taxable on an accrual basis in Canada as a general matter.
May I ask a follow-up question? Would you agree that ordinary Canadians don't have the luxury of setting up these complicated offshore tax havens, or tax structures rather, in countries like Bermuda to avoid paying taxes? Because they're not simple structures.
There are certain transaction costs that have to be taken into consideration for offshore structures.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that ordinary Canadians would not have the luxury to set those structures up then?
I think that's fair.
And would you agree that when high-income individuals or corporations move taxes offshore, the burden doesn't actually disappear, that it actually shifts onto the shoulders of working Canadians who don't have access to these schemes?
I guess the CRA is very active in applying Canada's tax rules to ensure that all Canadians are paying taxes appropriately under our laws. We have a lot of good new tools, and we're experiencing a lot more success than previously. So I guess I would just say it's not the case that rich people can simply shift funds offshore and avoid detection and avoid the law.
And I mean, you explained that there are transactional costs to setting up these structures, right? In other words, you have to be able to afford an expensive lawyer, an expensive accountant to be able to set them up. And that oftentimes is not accessible to an ordinary Canadian. So on that basis, then, these structures are not available to ordinary Canadians. It's only to the wealthier.
Thank you, Ms.
So she runs out of time.
Kobina, that's your time. We're going to move to Mr.
First round of questions.
So starting with Mrs. Thomas from the Conservatives for 6 minutes. You have the floor.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My first question here is going to be to Ms. Roy. Ms. Roy, I was reading some of the things that you've published and listening to a number of podcasts that have been produced. One of the things that you stated in an interview was the following. You said, "I believe that conversational AI is going to hold huge potential for news, and it's going to be able to connect us, journalists, to our audience even more than we've possibly been able to before." So obviously you're seeing a great deal of potential. You're seeing opportunity. I believe you're fairly forward thinking in terms of your willingness to consider AI and giving it a role within the newsroom. So I'm hoping that maybe you can expand a little bit on those opportunities that you see it potentially playing in our future, and how that can be done, I guess, in a way that advances all Canadians.
I think the whole part that I'm talking about.
All right, gang. I think this is fair. We're going to cross over because Rachel Thomas is on the floor currently. I'll make a video about the committee investigation another time. So we're just crossing over to this, and we're like that.
Counts of sexual exploitation involving 3 different patients over time. Despite these grave crimes, he received concurrent sentencing, which equated to 3.5 years. His patients were supposed to feel safe and cared for, but instead they were violated and betrayed. While they will carry the trauma for life, their abuser will soon walk free. It's unthinkable. So I'm proud to address this issue with my private member's bill C-246, the Ending Sentence Reductions for Sexual Predators Act. This act will ensure every crime is punished in full and every victim receives the justice they deserve, because this place should always stand with victims.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Paulin. Mr. Speaker, today I'd like to pay tribute to Jacques Saint-Jean, a passionate man who spent 24 years of his life serving the community of Saint-François-en-Laval. He was larger than life. He was kind-hearted and always had an open
Well, that's them frozen.
door to help. I knew him when he was a city councillor, near his citizens and deeply committed to their well-being. He was a sports enthusiast, and he founded a hockey school and spent his energy helping young people. He transmitted essential values to them, respect and solidarity. He helped to found in 1969 the Cardiological Center in Montreal, and he has supported many local projects to promote Quebec culture. His unrelenting commitment has a lasting impact on his community. And rest in peace, my friend.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, last week the Environment Minister said Canada must be an energy superpower, low carbon, low risk and low cost. But this government has deliberately chosen to ignore a proven opportunity, waste heat to power. Every day, heat from industries like metals, chemicals and cement escapes unused. Industry makes up over half of Canada's energy use, much of it lost as residual heat. That's zero-emission electricity, enough to power hundreds of thousands of homes. Other countries act. The U.S. gives a 30% tax credit. France, up to 50%. Canada, nothing. The government decided to exclude waste heat to power in its clean technology incentives. This misguided mindset must be corrected now. Conservatives will do what this government won't, manage Canada's energy future with economic sense. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Laurenti-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, culture in the regions is fundamental to creation, dissemination, and to our artists. Today, I would like to highlight the career of Sonia Pichet as Executive Director of the Théâtre du Marais in Valmorin. She's now retired, and she can be proud of her legacy as we celebrate the theatre's 25th anniversary. During last month's celebrations, she reminded us, culture nourishes and does people good. We should no longer question the need for a theatre or a dance company because it is this nourishment that is good for people's souls and for their health. And on this 30th of October, I would like to remind everyone that Quebec culture is at the heart of who we are as a nation. It reflects our identity and our uniqueness. Bravo, Sonia Pichet. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Surrey Newton.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honoured to recognise NISA Foundation for its invaluable work supporting women and children in Surrey Newton and communities across Canada. Though its NISA Foundation program, led by Program Director Simon Nehal, the organization provides safe, culturally responsive housing, counseling and wraparound supports to those fleeing violence, poverty or homelessness. NISA Foundation's commitment not only regenerates dignity but builds stronger, healthier families and communities. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to Simon Nehal and her dedicated team for their tireless efforts to create a brighter, more inclusive future for women and children across this country. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, this elitist Prime Minister still has not shared an ounce of remorse for making remarks about students in Canada needing to sacrifice more for their future than they already do. A poll from earlier this month found that 9 in 10 Canadians are concerned about housing. Over half worry about paying their mortgage or rent, especially Canadians who are my age. More young Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck. Food banks are overwhelmed. Gas prices are soaring, and housing is out of reach. No one should sacrifice their basic needs. To those told by this Liberal government to lower their expectations or give up on their dreams, it doesn't have to be this way. You deserve opportunity, stability, and a fair shot at the Canadian dream. Conservatives will fight for affordable homes, good jobs, and a better future, holding this Liberal government to account every step of the way. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Pierre Fondallard.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight Women's History Month. Partout au Canada.
Across Canada, women are shaping our communities every day.
I think, and I have seen women of different generations contribute in so many different ways. Chacun choisit.
Everyone chooses a different path.
Challenging for men to fully understand the lived experiences of women. Mais nous devons.
But we have to show them respect, not only during this month, but every day and at every moment.
2 daughters, I want Canada to remain a country that supports and uplifts women and girls. Et un pays.
We need to be a country that defends the rights of women across the world. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. The Prime Minister is a champion of tax evasion. Last week, during the Ethics Committee meeting, Brookfield was shown to have the highest levels of tax evasion in Canada the PM formerly headed this company. Over the past 15 years, the company has paid less than 5% tax annually in Canada, and over the past 5 years, the tax evasion of $6.5 billion. That's $6.5 billion, Mr. Speaker, that the Canadians are being deprived of, while the Prime Minister tells them that families and young people have to make sacrifices. The Liberals like to congratulate themselves for these social programs that people have to use more and more, but this is unacceptable. Can the Prime Minister really understand the reality of those who are paying their taxes here in Canada?
For Markham Stouffville.
Young Polonia's Leadership Summit, hosted in Ottawa by the Canadian-Polish Congress in collaboration with the Polish Embassy and the Canada-Poland Parliamentary Friendship Group. This summit brings together over 30 young Polish-Canadian leaders from across the country who represent the future of Polonia in Canada, a community whose contributions have enriched our country for generations. As chair of the Canada-Poland Parliamentary Friendship Group, and with my own Polish roots, I'm honored to be part of it because Poland is Canada's close ally, one of the fastest growing economies in the European Union, and our largest trading partner in Central and Eastern Europe. Our Prime Minister and Prime Minister Tusk affirmed in August our countries are committed to strengthening our strategic partnership. This summit supports that effort for the benefit of both Poles and Canadians now and for years to come. Dziękuję bardzo, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Portage-Lisgar.
The Prime Minister told us to judge him by prices at the grocery store, so let's do just that. Food inflation has blown past the Bank of Canada's target. Canadians are now paying over $800 more for food this year than last. And 39% of Canadians have experienced food insecurity in the past 12 months. Yet the Liberals are plowing ahead with measures that will make groceries even more expensive. From the industrial carbon tax on fertilizer and farm equipment, to the food packaging tax, to their inflationary spending, the story is the same. And just this month, representatives of the Liberal government were at an international meeting backing the UN's net zero shipping tax. Do they not see the obvious? If you tax the farmer who grows the food, those who package it, and the shippers who move it, the prices are going up. Seniors are struggling to stay afloat. Parents can't afford to put a nutritious meal on their kids' plates. It's clear that Canadians simply cannot afford another dime in Liberal food taxes. So when will they stop driving up grocery store prices? And finally, just give families a break at the checkout line.
The honourable member for Orleans. Mr. Speaker, it's an honour for me to rise today to pay tribute to Juliette Trudeau, who is retiring after 39 years of dedicated service to the Parliament. Originally from New Brunswick, Julie started her career as a legal secretary before establishing herself in Ottawa in '86. She joined the House of Commons that year and became a ministerial assistant, and she has been working at the Sergeant-at-Arms office, where she has occupied various positions until she retired as a liaison officer. Throughout her career, Juliette showed discretion, impartiality, and exceptional discernment. And as she says, she has a doctorate in service to members. Juliette has supported generations of parliamentarians with professionalism and rigor while she starts this new chapter of her life with her family and her grandson. We thank her sincerely for her dedication and her inspiring example. Congratulations, Juliette. We'll miss you.
I see Andrew Scheer in the batter's box.
Oral questions, questions orales. The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of this Liberal government, elites and insiders have never had it so good. Meanwhile, this Prime Minister is telling young Canadians that they're going to have to sacrifice even more. And now we learn what all that sacrifice is going to. We learned today that these Liberals just paid out big bonuses to government officials. The Liberal Housing Agency, CMHC, whose main job is to make housing more affordable, paid out $30 million in executive bonuses at a rate of about $42,000 a pop. Each one of those could have been a down payment for a young Canadian. Why is the Prime Minister telling young Canadians that they're going to have to sacrifice so that he can pay off government insiders?
The Honourable Minister for Gender Equality, Women and Gender Equality, Tourism and Small Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians made it clear in the last election they want more homes built, especially for young Canadians trying to buy their first home. And that's why this government is moving fast. We're cutting the GST for first-time home buyers, up to $50,000 in tax relief and nearly $4 billion in savings, Mr. Speaker. This works on building on our first home savings account and the National Housing Strategy supporting purpose-built rentals for young Canadians. While Conservatives are voting down affordability measures, we're stepping up and taking care of young Canadians finally getting the keys to their first home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, if flushing billions of tax dollars through big bureaucracies actually worked, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We've been hearing the same thing for 10 years from this Liberal government, and the results for young Canadians are terrible. The youth unemployment rate is now 15%. Young people are forced to move back into their parents' basement, and now the Prime Minister is telling them to sacrifice while he uses their tax dollars to pay off big bonuses for government officials. Do these Liberals not realize that young Canadians simply have nothing left to give?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
What young Canadians want is a great job, and that's why we're making the investments not only in the things that they need, like good jobs, housing, major projects, but also in the skills training that they need to pick up those jobs. You know, the Canadian Building Trades Union does a fantastic job training young apprentices, and that's why in our budget we will propose $75 million more to Canadian building trades unions and other unions around the country to train our youth who want to do the work, Mr. Speaker. They want to be part of this transformation.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
The Prime Minister told young Canadians to make sacrifices while Liberal insiders and elites never had it so good. Canadians are lining up at food banks while Liberals use tax dollars to hand out bonuses. CMHC execs got $30 million in bonuses for helping the Liberal housing crisis. EDC execs got $60 million in bonuses for Liberal mismanagement of COVID benefits. How many more sacrifices do young people need to make so the Prime Minister can keep lining the pockets of his insider buddies?
The Honourable Minister for Women and Gender Equality.
Mr. Speaker, this is coming from a member whose leader, when once responsible for this file, only built 6 homes in this country. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives claim to care about young people, yet every time a measure comes forward to actually support them, they vote against it. They voted against the National Housing Strategy, against the first-time home savings account, against expanding mortgage criteria, and now they won't even commit that GST cut that would save first-time home buyers $50,000. But don't worry, Mr. Speaker, Canadians can rely on our government and this side of the House to keep making life more affordable for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Housing was half the cost under our leader when he was the housing minister.
That's right.
And if all of those expensive programs work, 700,000 kids wouldn't be waiting in food bank lines every single month.
Exactly.
And rents have doubled. A PEI senior reported he's living out of his car because he can't afford rent. But this is the new normal in Liberal Canada. The only people eating and living good today are the Prime Minister and his elitist buddies. Why is he putting taxpayer-funded bonuses ahead of struggling Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I had the privilege of meeting with Minister Barb Ramsey of the Conservative government of Prince Edward Island. And you know what Minister Ramsey and I talked about? How pleased they were that we made the National School Food Program permanent. In fact, they've been able to drive down food hunger through National School Food Programs, and they are so happy to have a federal partner that's working with them so that kids can eat in dignity no matter who they are, no matter where they go to school.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have been in power for 10 years now, and you know what? Nowadays, more than 600,000 Quebecers are going to food banks every month, while the Prime Minister's friends are filling their boots. Last week, he had the nerve to tell young people to make even more sacrifices, while BDC and CMHC execs are getting tens of millions in bonuses. Instead of telling our young people to make sacrifices, why doesn't the Prime Minister ask his friends to make some by cutting back on their compensation packages? Why doesn't he do that? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, if my colleague wants to talk about nerve, they have the nerve to say things like that here in the House, but then vote against the measures we take to help the young and the vulnerable. For example, dental care that's helped thousands of people in his own riding. We could also talk about the hundreds of thousands of young people who have access to the school food program, which his colleague called garbage, Mr. Speaker. That takes a lot of nerve. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, they seem not to understand what ordinary people are going through. In Quebec, 600,000 people are now going to food banks. And at the same time, rents have doubled in all parts of Quebec, and the price of groceries continues to rise. Mr. Speaker, in the Journal de Montréal on the weekend, there was a front-page story about pregnant women cutting back on protein and vegetables. People don't have enough money to pay rent or buy groceries. Will the Prime Minister finally get the message and table an affordable budget so Quebec families can have an affordable life? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what's absolutely astounding is that whenever they have an opportunity to vote on programs that would truly improve the cost of living for Quebecers and Canadians, they vote against it. When it's for children or for the dental care program, the school food program, which has been a huge success helping young people in Quebec. They talk a good talk, but every time it comes to a vote, they're missing in action. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, 30 years ago, Quebecers came within a hair's breadth of creating their own country. Now the Yes Camp is back in action. So to all Quebecers who were already part of it, let's roll up our sleeves and start again. To all Quebecers who, like me, were too young or not even born yet, or who changed their minds, or who are living in another country, now it's our turn. But it'll have to be done democratically. And the federal government is preventing that with its Clarity Act. So my question to the government, will they commit to respecting the will of Quebecers? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Culture and Identity. Quebecers and Canadians went to the polls, and the people of Quebec chose to elect twice as many Liberals from Quebec than members on the opposite benches. I knocked on hundreds of doors and spoke to hundreds of people, and you know what no one was asking for? Another referendum. And now today, we're tabling a budget that will help build Canada. That's what our constituents want from us. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Minister can still join the Yes Camp once he's made his mind up. But in the meantime, it's not him, it's the citizens of Quebec who will decide on their future. And the Quebec nation deserves to be able to make all its own choices, like other peoples on this earth. If the minister is sure of Quebecers' attachment to Canada, he shouldn't be afraid of democracy. If he thinks he's sure to win a future referendum, why doesn't he repeal the Clarity Act? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we're dealing with important challenges. And here on this side of the House, and the majority of Quebecers, they think we're stronger, united to meet the challenge, the current day's challenges. The Bloc can do what it wants to do, but we're focused on unity and on the major, and we believe that we're stronger together than divided. The Honourable Member Saint-Jean for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers are a people like any other people, neither better nor worse. Maybe a little cooler, though. We deserve to be sovereign in our own home, like all peoples of the earth. We deserve to have our voice heard in the world like all other peoples of the earth. And above all, we deserve to make all our democratic choices ourselves, like all other peoples on earth. And that's the principle that the Clarity Act violates. It is literally English Canada retaining a right of oversight over our democracy. Will the government repeal this colonialist legislation? The Honourable Minister. It's quite interesting that the member talks about all peoples at a time when the government of Quebec has just tabled legislation without even consulting the Indigenous peoples of Quebec. No consultation whatsoever. So that's not how you work together, Mr. Speaker. And on this side of the House, we believe that we're stronger together. We believe in reconciliation with First Nations. And we consult with First Nations on all our legislation. That's how you build a country. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are going without food because of high prices, the Prime Minister's friends continue to get richer. When he created the new Defence Procurement Agency, the Prime Minister quickly turned to Doug Guzman to fill the position of CEO and gave him a $700,000 salary. After all, with Liberals, once a crony, always a crony. But now he's forgetting that he's spending taxpayers' money, not Bay Street's. Can this Prime Minister stop asking young people to make sacrifices so that his friends get rich? The Honourable Government House Leader. The only question on everyone's lips is, will the Conservatives steal Christmas from Canadians by triggering an election? We were just elected 6 months ago, and we got a mandate to build the strongest economy in the G7 and a strong country, and to build housing and opportunities, job opportunities for young people from coast to coast to coast. Is that member going to steal Christmas, or will he support our young people by supporting our budget? The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Government House Leader, he's unique. There's no one else like him. And he's supporting the Liberals' mismanagement for 10 years and telling Canadians that everything's going tickety-boo. Are they going to table an affordable budget so that Canadians can have an affordable life? That's the question on everyone's lips. The Honourable Government House Leader. That is the question. That is the question. We are going to table an affordable budget based on a strong economy, which will guarantee a future and housing for our young people. It will guarantee training for our young people. The only question that remains is, are they going to steal Christmas? Or are they going to take this opportunity to build a strong country with the best economy in the G7?
Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
After 10 years of this government, Liberal elites and insiders have never had it so good. But the Prime Minister told Canadians they need to sacrifice. He promised he would spend less, but instead he spends more. The latest example? The head of his new defense investment agency, who has never served, will draw a $700,000 salary. Meanwhile, rent has doubled, food banks are breaking records, and seniors are living in their cars. How much more do young Canadians have to sacrifice so this Prime Minister can hire his buddies?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the party ops has been for the last 4 months, but we've been traveling in the country listening to Canadians. On November 4th, we will table a generational budget, Mr. Speaker. We will spend less in government operations. We will invest more in Canada. We will invest more in Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We will invest in infrastructure, defense, national projects, housing. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe in Canada. We will build our country and our economy into the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Tell that to the 700,000 kids lined up at food banks. How much more do they have to sacrifice for Liberal insiders? Canadians need a government that puts ordinary families first. While Canadians are sacrificing, the Prime Minister is handing out $700,000 salaries to his high-flying buddies like Halloween candy. When will this Prime Minister stop using taxpayer dollars to line his friends' pockets and finally give Canadians an affordable budget for an affordable life?
Trick or treat.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Party apologize to all the kids who take benefit of the National School Food Program, Mr. Speaker. They called it garbage last week, and they claimed it doesn't feed a single child. On the contrary, it feeds 400,000 kids every year, helping them to learn, helping them to focus, be ready for a full day of school. This is about giving every child an opportunity, no matter where they live, no matter where they earn. Mr. Speaker, I ask the members opposite, now that it's known, will they correct the record and apologize, or will they ruin Christmas with a Christmas?
The Honourable Member for Carlton Trail Eagle Creek.
After 10 years of this government, Liberal elites and insiders have never had it so good. The Prime Minister promised to cut high-priced consultants, but has already broken that promise. In 3 years, consultant spending soared more than 30%. This Prime Minister said he'd do things differently. According to him, differently is spending more than a record $26 billion on consultants. Another broken Liberal promise. Will the Prime Minister cut the costly consultants so Canadians can afford to eat?
Secretary. The Honourable Secretary of State.
I missed it. What happened?
The Secretary of State. Yeah. The Honourable Secretary of State for Rural Development.
This guy is a drunk, guaranteed.
Mr. Speaker, I reject the premise of that question, Mr. Speaker, because we all know on this side of the House the Conservatives never gave a dang about the low-income people and never will, Mr. Speaker.
There you go.
So I would point again, a memo to the Conservatives. Canadians don't want a Christmas election, first of all. The second thing is I would ask the Leader of the Opposition.
The member would like it from the top. Go from the top.
So, Mr. Speaker, as they speak about the challenges in this country, I'm going to ask the Leader of the Opposition, what did he take for severance when the current member from Carleton defeated him at the polls? How much did he take, Mr. Speaker?
Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands.
Well, this Prime Minister and these Liberals are asking students to make sacrifices, and Canadians are lined up at food banks in record numbers. Their use of their well-connected friends and high-priced consultants is driving costs up, like the Benefits Modernization Program that the Auditor General says is ballooned by an additional $1.3 billion and could hit as high as $8 billion. Canadians can't afford this Liberal government when we see layoffs from coast to coast to coast that we've never seen before. Why is it that Canadians are being asked to make sacrifices while these Liberals continue to reward well-connected Liberal consultants?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this from the member who, when asked about his leader's comments on the RCMP, said, "I'm sorry, I have a lozenge in my mouth." So what I would like to ask that member is, will he take out his lozenge, go over and talk to the Leader of the Opposition, say, don't be a Grinch, don't cause a Christmas election, vote for this budget, and make Canada the best economy in the G7.
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Like it tell you that a lot of Canadians feel sick after these Liberals continue to inflict their out-of-control spending on consultants. Last year alone, over $20 billion on well-connected Liberal insiders getting contracts. And this year, I think the number said that it's going to go as high as $25 billion. Why won't they put Canadians first? Instead of asking young people to make sacrifices, why won't they cut out their well-connected friends, put Canadians first, and deliver a budget that Canadians can actually afford?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the member's choice of cold remedy, we will be putting a budget before this House next week. This member will have an opportunity to vote for opportunities for young people, for UTIP grants to unions so that we can create skilled trade jobs, unionized skilled trade jobs on major projects in this country, so that we can fund science, so that we can fund education, so that we can give a raise to our military personnel. Mr. Speaker, please vote for that budget. Don't cause
The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, yesterday our forestry industry and its workers were here on the Hill to call on Ottawa to finally support them in their dispute with the Americans. They're asking the federal government to pay them 50% of any future countervailing duties. This is a no-cost measure since we know the American duties are illegal and ultimately our producers will get reimbursed. But it's crucial for the survival of our sawmills. Yesterday, the minister appeared open to the idea, so it's up to her to turn this openness into action. Will she? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Culture and Identity. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for that question. Last Friday, with my colleague from Les Pays d'en Haut, we met with the mayors in the Laurentide region and to talk about the $500 million available through BDC rather. And we are going to be there to support the industry and its workers through these tough times. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, it seems the Liberals have been duped as well. It seems they believed their Prime Minister when he said there would be a deal with the Americans in July and then that there would be one this fall. But there is no deal, and it's clear there is no savior in the Liberal Party. It's a rude awakening. It hurts. But they have to finally understand the urgency of protecting our economy. Our forestry industry is calling for support in the face of countervailing duties. They need a wage subsidy to protect jobs. When will the Liberals finally do something? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague. We fully agree with him that this is an unjustified situation. The tariffs are unwarranted, and we hope to work with all members, the 40 members from Quebec in particular, to help our softwood lumber industry. Earlier, the minister mentioned that there's $1.25 million in support, and we want to do even more for our lumber industry.
After 10 years of this government, Liberal friends and insiders have never had it so good. We just learned that the government's own housing agency just doled out over $3.6 million in bonuses to all but one of their 86 executives. That's about $43,000 per executive. Meanwhile, rents have doubled, mortgage payments have doubled, home prices have doubled. I'm just wondering if the minister can tell Canadians who cannot find a home how much more he requires them to sacrifice while he pays his executive bonuses.
Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the opposition keeps talking down our country, we are building it up. They talk down our housing as shacks in Soviet style. They talk down our police as despicable. They talk down our school food program as garbage. Meanwhile, here's some good news, Mr. Speaker. The only thing going down are interest rates. Meanwhile, we're working hard building affordable housing, hiring 1,000 new RCMP officers, and our national food program is feeding hundreds. Why don't they join us in building up the country instead of tearing it down?
The Honourable Member for Parry Sound Muskoka.
Mr. Speaker, food bank visits have skyrocketed to 2.2 million this year. Home prices are 54% higher today than they were in October 2015. The CTV reported this morning that a 76-year-old man in Prince Edward Island has been living in his car for the last 2 months because he cannot afford rent. The Prime Minister has told young Canadians that need to sacrifice. So the question is very simple. How much more sacrifice do you require from struggling Canadians to pay executive bonuses?
The Honourable Minister.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Speaker. We are doing everything to build this country up strong. The Conservatives are talking it down. They talk down our housing program. They vote against affordable housing. They vote against school food programs. They vote against hiring 1,000 RCMP officers. The hard work right now is to build this country up. We've got a budget coming November 4th. I hope they join us in doing the hard work and build this country up and avoid a Christmas election. Fight for this country.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of these Liberals, insiders have never had it so good. Canadians made 2.2 million food bank visits last year, including 700,000 children. And seniors are living in cars because rent has doubled. Meanwhile, this government gave $1 billion to buy boats from Beijing, offshoring Canadian steel, shipbuilding jobs, while executives at the Canadian Infrastructure Bank pocketed fat bonuses. They laugh all the way to the bank while Canadian workers cry all the way to the food bank. When will this Prime Minister stop lining the pockets of insiders and start delivering an affordable life for Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, I want to thank my honourable friend who's also the transport critic, and I will tell him that next week, November 4th, there's going to be a budget that solves the problem that he and I want solved, the problem of Drivers Inc. The Minister of Finance announced today that measures are going to be taken to make sure we restore labour standards and fairness to the trucking industry in this country. That's going to be in the budget. Will this member, I'm asking him, walk down the aisle, tell the Grinchy leader of the opposition, vote for the budget, don't ruin Christmas, build Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
I didn't expect the minister to ask me to walk down the aisle with him. Canadians made 2.2 million food bank visits last year, while seniors are sleeping in cars because rent has doubled. Yet this Liberal government sent $1 billion taxpayer dollars to buy boats from Beijing and handed out eye-popping bonuses at the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. Why is this Prime Minister using taxpayer dollars to reward insiders and offshoring Canadian jobs instead of helping Canadians afford the food and a roof over their heads?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, I want to once again thank my honourable friend and tell him I'll walk down any aisle that he wants to walk down if he'll just walk down a few steps and tell the Grinchy leader of the opposition we don't want a Christmas election. We want to support a plan that gives raises to the military, that keeps that shipbuilding industry in Vancouver humming, building ships for the Coast Guard and the Canadian military. All of this is going to be in our affordable, great economy-building budget on November 4th. Will that member do the right thing? Tell the Leader of the Opposition we don't want a Christmas election, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are struggling, it's the festival of bonuses for Liberal elites and insiders. Executives at the Business Development Bank of Canada got an average of $216,000 in bonuses. At Via Rail, it was $110,000 in bonuses. And at Export Development Canada, $143,000 in bonuses, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Prime Minister is asking young people to make sacrifices, but not his buddies. Can this Prime Minister stop asking young Canadians to make sacrifices to enrich his buddies? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, listen, we've already seen him do better than that, Mr. Speaker. In terms of his question, he wants to talk about sacrifices. It's a bit hypocritical on their side. They're ready to sacrifice the Canada Child Benefit. They're ready to sacrifice dental care. They're ready to sacrifice the National School Food Program. They'd be ready to sacrifice, Mr. Speaker, an increase in salary for our armed forces. Mr. Speaker, the official opposition leader was ready to sacrifice one of his own MPs to get elected a couple of months ago, so we understand that they understand sacrifices over there.
West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, money laundering, fraud, and financial crimes fuel organized crime, undermine confidence in our financial system, and contribute to serious challenges like the opioid crisis and rising housing costs in British Columbia. Our government has taken decisive action in recent years through major legislative reforms, but the sophistication of these crimes means we must remain vigilant and we must do more. Can the Secretary of State for the CRA and financial institutions update the House on how our government is strengthening enforcement to better detect and disrupt financial crime?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and...
fair. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank
Just a moment. I just want to warn some members in this corner that we have to keep the level of noise down so that we can hear the Secretary of State for Financial Institutions and the Canada Revenue Agency.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for this important question. Last week, our new Liberal government introduced that on November 4th, our very first budget will take decisive action to safeguard Canadians' financial information and life savings. All of us in this House have had cases of heartbreak, especially seniors being defrauded. That's why we will introduce several measures in Budget 2025 to combat financial crimes, such as federal anti-fraud strategy, a dedicated financial crimes agency, and a code of conduct to combat economic abuse. Budget 2025 will build Canada strong by protecting
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent Akiawenrak. Mr. Speaker, for 10 years the Liberals have been completely mismanaging taxpayer money. And the Auditor General has given us a terrible example. The Canada Revenue Agency signed a contract for 10 years for a new telephone system with a budget of $50 million. Do you know how much it's cost them so far? $190 million. And it might go up to $217 million, 4 times more than what was expected. That's Liberal management. Will the Liberals finally understand that they need to stop wasting money and put in place measures so that people can have an affordable life? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. And I'll be happy to brief my colleague from the opposition so that he understands the nature of that contract, which was a competitive bid where the fees of $190 million over 10 years were included in the initial contract. We got good value for money. If he'd like to know more about that specific instance of procurement, I'd be happy to brief him on that. Otherwise, I would invite him to listen to what was said at committee recently, where the president of Shared Services Canada explained the situation. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, I would invite everybody to listen to what happened at committee about the CRA. It was very instructive on the completely irresponsible way that they have been managing the CRA for the last 10 years under this Liberal government. The result, Mr. Speaker, is what? Well, it means that there are 2 million Canadians who are going to food banks right now. The cost of housing has doubled since these people have been in power. And what has the Prime Minister asked for from young people? More sacrifices. When will the government understand that they need to stop wasting, that they need to put in place real measures so that all Canadians can have an affordable life? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what we promised Canadians and young Canadians, and the reason why they're on that side of the House and we're over here, is we promised a serious plan for Canada's economy by making key investments to build Canada's economy while reducing the cost of living, while increasing the cost of purchasing power. That's what we did by lowering taxes for 22 million Canadians. That's what we're going to do on November 4th. I would invite the member to support us.
For Calgary Crowfoot.
After 10 years of this government, Liberal elites and insiders have never had it so good. But the Prime Minister told young Canadians that they are the ones who need to sacrifice. So while young Canadians have given up on home ownership, the Auditor General reports that the CRA allowed a telephone system contract to go from $50 million to nearly $200 million while they still don't answer the phone. Will the government deliver an affordable budget that reins in sweetheart deals for insiders? Yes or no?
There you go.
The Honourable Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, one thing is clear. Investing in housing is one of the most effective ways to tackle food insecurity. In the last 6 months, in my home riding of Edmonton Centre, I announced over $400 million in infrastructure investments and affordable housing. We're not asking young people to make sacrifices or Canadians to make sacrifices. We're asking the Conservatives to support our generational budget so we can keep building homes and make life affordable for Canadians.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
After 10 years of this Liberal government, elites and insiders have never had it so good. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's message to young Canadians is to continue to sacrifice. While Canadians are lining up at food banks, billions of their tax dollars keep going to consultants, $25 billion, in fact. Consultants that don't stick to budgets or, according to the Auditor General, don't even deliver results. So why doesn't this Prime Minister make his friends and insiders sacrifice instead of young Canadians?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, one of the biggest drivers of food insecurity is the cost of housing, and that's why we're focused on getting more homes built. That's how you make life affordable for Canadians, and we're starting to see progress. Projects are breaking ground, rents are starting to level off, and more families are moving into homes that they can afford. The Conservatives can criticize all they want, but if they really wanted to help families with affordability, they'd support our budget.
The member for Calgary-Midnapore.
The numbers don't lie. Canadians have made a smashing 2.2 million food bank visits. Over 700,000 are children. 700,000, Mr. Speaker. Canadians are living in their cars. They are struggling. They can't afford food and they can't afford homes. These are facts. So why won't the Liberals admit that their programs aren't working and that they will choose their friends and insiders over Canadians every single time?
Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Mr. Speaker, I've noticed that the Conservatives have stopped quoting the report from Food Banks Canada. And you know why, Mr. Speaker? Because in that report, in fact, what Food Banks Canada said is that there are some promising signs from the federal government. Things like Canada disability payment for the very first time, something those guys voted against. The Canadian dental care plan that's bringing down costs of dental care for Canadians, Mr. Speaker, a national food program, and a national housing strategy that's focused on market rent housing. Mr. Speaker, that's what they're prepared to throw away.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister stands to make tens of millions of dollars in future bonus pay from 3 investment funds that he registered in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. So a simple question, how many other investments does the Prime Minister have in offshore tax havens?
Good question.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
That member knows very well that all members in this House must abide by some of the strictest, most stringent ethics rules in the world. The Prime Minister has not only met but exceeded his requirements under those ethics guidelines, Mr. Speaker, and he will continue to do so.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, expert testimony reveals that the Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, is the biggest tax dodger in Canada, having avoided paying a staggering $6.5 billion in taxes in just 5 years. As chair of Brookfield, the Prime Minister registered 3 investment funds in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, in which he stands to make millions. So again, how much does the Prime Minister have in offshore tax havens?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Once again, Mr. Speaker, Canada lives under the most stringent and strong ethics guidelines for designated public office holders in the world. All members must comply with these requirements. These requirements are met very transparently, including the Prime Minister's, which is all, of course, available for the public to view. These ethics guidelines in Canada are strong, and we should be proud of that, Mr. Speaker.
For St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals speak of a stringent and robust regime, yet the Prime Minister's company, Brookfield, registered multiple funds to a bike shop in Bermuda, all to avoid paying taxes in Canada, a bike shop. The Prime Minister is dodging a simple question, so I will ask it again. How much money does he have in offshore tax havens? Just a number, please.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, on April 28th, Canadians had a choice between a leader with world and business experience versus a leader with no experience outside of this House. Canadians spoke loud and clear. They elected a leader that's going to build Canada, invest in Canada. They elected a leader that's going to make Canada the strongest economy in the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for St. Albert, Sturgeon River.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister refuses to come clean about his offshore tax havens. Meanwhile, he lectures young Canadians that they need to sacrifice more. Well, after 10 years of these Liberals, they can't afford food, they can't afford rent, they have nothing left to give. So when will the Prime Minister park his hypocrisy, come clean, and tell us how much cash he has stashed in offshore tax havens?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, while the party opposite is focused on their leader, we're focused on Canada. We're focused on building our economy the strongest in the G7. Mr. Speaker.
I couldn't hear. So if the Honourable Secretary of State would like to start from the top, that would be ideal.
Start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, the party opposite has had a bad week. We understand that. They're focused on their leader and they're focused on a revolting caucus. But on this side of the House, we are focused on building Canada. We are focused on investing in Canada. On November 4th, we will come forth with a budget that will invest, build our economy in the strongest into the G7. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. Mr. Speaker, we have the industries, the innovators, and the workers ready to deliver the advanced technologies that our armed forces and our allies need, from aerospace to cyber systems. Can the Minister of Government Transformation please explain to the House how Buy Canadian will ensure that federal procurement supports the development of a strong Canadian defence and security industry, that it strengthens our supply chains and builds a more resilient and prosperous economy for all Canadians? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank the Honourable Member for Terrebonne, and I'm very happy to say that to the Member for Terrebonne. Happy to see her with us here in this House, and I thank her for her excellent question, Mr. Speaker. It's an excellent question because I know that there are a lot of businesses in her riding for whom it's important that we buy Canadian. What does it mean to buy Canadian? It means that we prioritize Canadian businesses, that we have requirements for Canadian content. It means helping SMEs so that they can participate in federal procurement. It means supporting Canadian businesses in aerospace, in naval construction, in AI, in manufacturing. And Mr. Speaker, we're going to go forward because we know that contracts are always better than handouts.
The facade has been exposed. The Prime Minister's claim of being a master negotiator is pure fiction. Every time the Prime Minister meets with foreign leaders, it's Canadian farmers who suffer the consequences. Now India has slapped a 30% tariffs on Canadian yellow peas. This is when farmers are already suffering from crippling tariffs from China on peas, canola, beef, seafood, pork, and other commodities. Now India has taken another step, and every time the Prime Minister travels, it's farmers who feel the pain. So why is it that Canadian farmers are the ones paying the price for the Prime Minister's vanity tour?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, numerous times I have reiterated in this House the importance of diversifying Canada's supply chains. Over the past number of months, I have spoken with my counterpart in Pakistan. Pakistan is one of the world's largest importers of canola. This morning, he confirmed to me that Pakistan will open its doors to Canadian canola. In fact, he confirmed to me that orders have already been placed for Canadian canola. This is great news for Canadian farmers, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we will build Canada strong.
The Honourable Member
failures, now 80% of Canada's pea markets are facing tariffs. That is the fact. Every time this Prime Minister travels, it's Canadian farmers who are suffering the consequences. Let's look at the Liberal scoreboard. In China, 100% tariffs on Canadian peas and canola, 25% on pork and seafood, and Canadian beef has been blocked since 2021. United Kingdom does not take Canadian beef and pork. Meanwhile, imports from the United Kingdom in beef has skyrocketed. Now India slapped a 30% tariff on Canadian peas and 10% on lentils. Will the Prime Minister stop the photo ops and get tariff relief for Canadian farmers who are just trying to feed?
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to reiterate that we are actively making sure that countries hear the interests of Canadian farmers, Canadian suppliers, Canadian producers. Not only is Pakistan opening its doors to Canadian canola, I raised potash and canola, agriculture and seafood in my recent trip to the Indo-Pacific, and the governments with whom I spoke assured me that we will continue to work together to build economic supply chains across the Indo-Pacific, which is why the Prime Minister is in the region right now.
The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Just making it work. Mr. Speaker, prairie farmers don't want handouts. They want a trade deal. China's unfair tariffs on Canadian canola have cost billions of dollars and punished our producers. The canola sector is bigger than Canada's steel, aluminum, and auto sectors combined. Yet this government, they treat it like an afterthought. Now the Prime Minister is in China meeting with President Xi. Will he finally reach a deal to lift these punishing tariffs or come back once again empty-handed, proving that when it comes to standing up for Canadian farmers, this Prime Minister is all talk and no trade?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Canola farmers produce the best canola in the world. And we know China has imposed unfair tariffs on canola. We're working on it. The Prime Minister and the Minister of Agriculture is currently in Asia, diversified our trade, but also resolving dispute resolution. And Pakistan now opens the door to our canola. But in the meantime, Mr. Speaker, we will be there for our farmers with programs to support them during this difficult time, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci, Monsieur le Président. There are now less than 100 days until the 2026 Milano Cortina Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. Our government recognizes that athlete health and well-being are foundational to performance, and we want all of Team Canada to know when you're representing the country we all love, we have your backs. Can my good friend and colleague, the Secretary of State for Sport, share how our government is supporting Team Canada Olympic and Paralympic athletes and their coaches? And while I have the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, let's go Blue Jays.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Sport.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On Monday, I announced more than $3 million of an investment in mental health for athletes to support the Canadian Olympic and Paralympic institutes and networks across our country, supported by the Canadian Olympic Committee and the Paralympic Committee. And, Mr. Speaker, we're also supporting Game Plan, the Canadian National Team Total Wellness Program. These investments are critical because our government knows health and mental health and overall well-being are foundational to the performance and the success for our national team athletes in sport and in life. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are proud of our athletes and teams with the 2026 Winter Paralympic and Olympic Games coming up, fast approaching. Canada's new government is committed to supporting Team Canada.
Canada, go!
The Honourable Member for Elgin, St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian youth are struggling, but Liberal elites have never had it so good. Youth unemployment is at 15%. Young people are writing off the dream of home ownership as simply a fantasy. But the gravy train is chugging along for the Prime Minister's friends. 79% of Export Development Canada executives cashed in bonuses averaging $143,000 each. BDC executives got bonuses averaging $216,000 each. The Prime Minister's housing agency paid out over $30 million in bonuses. Will the Prime Minister ask his elite Liberal insider friends to make sacrifices instead of young Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Speaker, little known fact because it wasn't exactly a bestseller, but that man was Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition's biographer. His biographer? Now, that would mean that he knows some intimate secrets about the leader of the opposition. What I suggest is that he walk down a few stairs, talk to his boss, tell the leader of the opposition, that Grinchy guy, don't steal Christmas from our kids, don't cause a Christmas election, vote for this budget. It's going to help Canadian youth and build the best economy in the G7.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister says he wants to make generational investments in nation-building projects. New Democrats agree. We also know that a healthy economy needs a healthy workforce. The NDP pioneered dental care and pharmacare because they deliver essential primary health care to Canadians. We believe every Canadian should have head-to-toe health care regardless of their ability to pay. Will the Liberals acknowledge that universal public health care is nation-building and reflect that principle in their budget next week?
The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague from the opposition for his question. You know, I am the Minister of Health, and my role is first and foremost to defend the Canada Health Act. So I can guarantee to my colleague that before and after the budget, certainly we will defend universal health care for Canadians. Thank you.
Member for Vancouver East.
Deep cuts are being planned for the arts and culture sector in the upcoming budget. Festival and events could lose $22.5 million, reducing their funding to 2007 levels. The Canada Arts Council could face a $50 million cut. Arts and culture not only feed our soul, they are a major economic driver, contributing $65 billion to Canada's GDP in 2024, generating $17 billion in federal and provincial tax revenue. Funding should be increased to support these made-in-Canada jobs. Will the Minister of Finance scrap these cuts?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture.
For her question, in fact, between 2015 and 2024, this government has doubled the funding for the Arts and Culture Centre in this country. We have doubled the funding for the Canada Arts Council. We will continue to be there for our artists and for our cultural sector, Mr. Speaker.
I would like to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Barb Ramsey, Minister of Social Development and Seniors for the province of Prince Edward Island. John?
All right, gang, we're going to wrap it up right there. Thank you all for tuning in today. It is going to get so heated here going into the election. Like, it's getting loud in the House of Commons, and the propaganda is going to be more fierce because, again, they don't want to lose, because once they're out, they aren't going to get back in for a number of years. Pretty sure about that. This budget, like, how much is it going to be? 120 billion, do you think? Like, again, that was my guess a ways back, and I'm going to stick with that number because they keep saying, like, oh, it might be this. It's going to be way more than that. He's been traveling around the world, promising out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, which he doesn't want back. It's just an investment in Brookfield. Get those countries set up so that Brookfield can move on in and then make money from those companies. Again, everybody that's watching now, I know everyone here is like in the loop. They know what's going on. I don't know how you get it through to people that are like in denial, because by now they're either just not watching and choosing to believe something that they don't follow, or they're wanting to be fooled, which is a human, it's a attribute, or not an attribute. It's a human quality to not want to be told you're wrong, or that you were fooled, or that you're being duped. People are always like, no, I'm not duped. I've been duped before, but these assholes are not duping me anymore. Like, and I know this audience as well. They're not fooling anybody here. Thank you all so much for watching. We're wrapping up. We're going to head out and get us a bite to eat. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in. My name is Aaron. This is Canadian Loony. The politics are loony. My name's Aaron. I don't care if people call me loony. It's fine. Yeah. Anyhow, thank you all so much for tuning in. We're on our way out with this.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romper Room.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Tip tap, pitter pat, granny cat too. Rooty toot, kimble, loopy loo. Boppity stompity, romper room and friends.
Yeah, gang, thanks again for tuning in. We're back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday, so we start a couple hours early just so that you're aware. I'll put out a notice. Like, share, subscribe to get notified, or smash the bell to get notified. Fridays start early. We will be doing a pre-show, so come and join us. That's it. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next one. I wave too much. You generally only wave once. Ciao for now.